Picking up right where we left off with question number 22. We have a large pickup that has a fuel efficiency of 16.2 miles per gallon, and we want to express this fuel efficiency in kilometers per liter. So we have two conversions that we need to deal with. So let's switch to a different color. So let's say we have our first conversion is 1 mile equals 1.609 kilometers. So I can write that, like I said in the previous video, I can write that as a ratio. 1 mile per 1.609 kilometers, or I can put the kilometers on top. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to use that how it suits me. The other one is 1 gallon is 3.785 liters. So I can do the same thing with this one. 1 gallon per 3.785 liters, or 3.785 liters per 1 gallon. Either way. Now I'm going to do this problem in 2 steps. Okay, 2 separate steps to show you how this can work one step at a time. So I'm going to start with my given information, which is 16.2 miles per gallon. Okay, and then I'm going to use a conversion factor, one of them. I'm going to start with just arbitrarily, I'm going to start with the gallons. Okay. So right now in my given information, I have gallons on the bottom. So I'm going to pick a conversion that has gallons on top to make it cancel out. All right, so I'm going to say 1 gallon is 3.785 liters. All right, so because they're on opposite sides of the fraction bar, my gallons will cancel out. So if I stop here and do this calculation, let me do it really fast on my calculator. 16.2 divided by 3.785 will give me an answer of 4.28. Let's say 280 miles per liter. Okay, so I can do this one step at a time. So now I have an answer that is in miles per liter, and now I need to convert miles to kilometers, so I get kilometers per liter. So the liters I'm going to keep because I want that one, but the one that I want to get rid of is miles. So I'm going to pick a conversion factor that has miles on the bottom. That's going to be this one right here. Okay, so I can say 1.609 kilometers in 1 mile. All right, so my miles will cancel out because they're on opposite sides of the fraction bar from each other. And we'll end up with an answer that is 6.89 kilometers per liter. Okay, so you can do this one step at a time. Now I'm going to erase this bottom line and show you how you can do it all in one equation. If you're comfortable with that. So I can write this entire thing like this. 16.2 miles per gallon is our given information. I can say 1 gallon is 3.785 liters. Getting ahead of myself. And then I can do a second conversion right away, 1.609 kilometers per, getting things mixed up, kilometers per mile. All right, and so I can track things through just as I did before. Gallons on opposite sides will cancel. Miles on opposite sides will cancel, leaving me with kilometers and liters. And I'll end up with the same answer. 6.89 kilometers per liter. Okay, and what I'll enter into the calculator, if I do this whole thing, anything that's on the bottom of a conversion factor I divide, anything that's on top of my multiply. So I would say 16.2 divided by 3.785 times 1.609 will give me 6.89. And question 23. Find the volume of this box in both cubic centimeters and cubic decimeters. Right, so just as a reminder, volume is length times width times height. All right, so we'll have 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters will give us 1,000 cubic centimeters. Right, because we're given centimeters in each of these units. Right, so part A of this question, 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters. Length times width times height. Gives us 1,000 cubic centimeters. So the centimeters, nothing cancels out, so I have to put them together, right? So I've got 3 centimeters in this problem, and they all multiply. So that's why I get centimeters cubed. So what about the decimeters, right? The easiest thing, I could convert 1,000 cubic centimeters directly to cubic decimeters, but that's a little more complicated than I want you to be able to do. So the easiest thing is to first convert to decimeters. Okay, and there are, the conversion is 1 decimeter equals 10 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to pick one of my sides and say 10 centimeters, and I'm going to convert it to decimeters. So I'm going to put centimeters on the bottom and decimeters on top. Okay, so each side is 1 decimeter. Say 1 decimeter times 1 decimeter times 1 decimeter equals 1 decimeter cubed. Okay, so when dealing with this type of problem, it's easier to first convert each measurement into the desired measurement and then try to cube it. Okay? So units of volume. So this is kind of a weird subjective type of question, designed to get you to think about the most appropriate units for something. And I'm going to skip right to the answer to this problem because it is so subjective. So a die, a single dice, would be most appropriately measured in centimeters on each side. So it would be a centimeters on this side, and any 3 sides. And then something that's probably about 10 times larger, we'd have decimeters. So I will measure decimeters, and let's say decimeters. Okay? And then something that is again 10 times larger, our washing machine or dryer, whatever this happens to be, I'm going to go meters and meters and meters. So let's continue on with our unit conversion. So how many milliliters are there in 4.2 liters? And this is a very, very common conversion that you will see many times throughout this semester. Okay, milliliters to liters and liters to milliliters. really common. So our conversion factor comes from 1 milliliter equals 10 to the minus 3 liters. And that's straight off of that table. Personally, I tend to think of 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. Those are both the same thing, just from sort of opposite points of view. But trying to keep in sort of consistent notation with the table that you've been given, we're going to go with this notation here, okay? So that everything's the same. Right, so I can write this, again, I'm going to reiterate this idea that I can say 1 milliliter over 10 to the minus 3 liters, or 10 to the minus 3 liters over 1 milliliter, however I need it to be for my problem. So I'm going to start with my given information, 4.2 liters, and I'm going to pick the conversion factor that has liters on the bottom. That's this one right here. So I'll say 1 milliliter over 10 to the minus 3 liters. And in my calculator, I'm going to enter this. I'm going to say 4.2 divided by E minus 3. Remembering anything on the bottom of a conversion factor, we divide. So my final answer will be 4.2 times 10 to the 3 milliliters. Because liters will cancel liters if they're on opposite sides of the fraction bar. Remembering that this 4.2 liters that we start with is really the same thing as saying 4.2 over 1. So it's on the top of the fraction bar. Right, so 4.2 times 10 to the minus 3. Let's remind ourselves about converting to standard notation. So if I have 4.2 and I'm going to convert it to standard notation, I'm going to move my decimal place 3 spots. And it's a positive exponent, so I'm going to make it a big number. So I'm going to move to the right. So I'll say 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put my decimal place right there and fill in with zeros. So that's how we get 42,000 milliliters for our answer. Right? So this may seem like a complicated question. How many cubic centimeters are there in 953 milliliters? And you may be racking your brain to try and figure out what is the conversion from a meter type unit to a liter type unit. Well, it's actually kind of a trick question. And you may be groaning inside right now, but it's one that is actually very relevant to anyone that's interested in going into a medical field. So here's why it's a trick question. So 1 liter is defined as 1,000 cubic centimeters, right? But we also know from our conversion table that 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. Okay, because milli means 10 to the minus 3. So if I've got 1,000 milliliters, I've got 1 liter. So if a liter equals both of those things, then that means that 1 cubic centimeter equals 1 milliliter. So if you've ever watched a hospital show, an ER show, any kinds of those shows, and you hear some doctors say, I need 1,000 cc's of something, or 10 cc's of something, cc stands for cubic centimeter, which is the same thing as saying that I need 10 milliliters of something. But it's a whole lot easier and faster to say cc than it is to say cubic centimeter or milliliter. So how many cubic centimeters are there in 953 milliliters? The answer is 953 cubic centimeters, because they're equal. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this video right here. Well, let's take a look and confirm that we are correct. Now I'm going to stop this video right here, and we'll pick up with problem number 27.